Welcome to the November 2023 LAPPG meeting. Let's get going and welcome our friends back from Frame.io. We have editor Sarah Katz, and we have content producer, instructional media specialist, Shawn McDaniel with us tonight. So we will welcome them. I'm going to turn it over to you guys and let you tell us about these powerful features in Frame.io. And obviously we have a lot to learn, so we're going to be listening in. We appreciate you being here.
So I've got a little bit of slides to go through, and then we're going to do a little bit of a demo and kind of show you how this is done. So again, you know the session's about powerful features for creative collaboration, and you know who we are, but I'm going to give you a little more in-depth information. So I'm a content producer for instructional media at Frame.io. And I worked as an editor. I worked at BuzzFeed, did a little bit of work for Riot Games, and a filmmaker at heart. And that kind of led me to be in this Frame.io role and do these virtual events to help people kind of up-level their workflows. And that's just a little bit of history on myself. But Sarah, I want to let you have an opportunity to give a little background on you.
Sure. I've been editing for around 10 years. I started on Final Cut, as most people did, and I have been on Premiere for a lot of time at this point, way before working here. I've been an editor for primarily marketing campaigns throughout the television industry, tech industries, for most of that time. Of course, I do freelance fun stuff on the side, so editing at all different capacities for all different types of campaigns, features, the whole slew. So it's been a fun ride, and I'm excited to chat through everything we have tonight.
Yeah, Sarah, you're such an amazing editor, and I'm so glad that we get to have an opportunity to have you show us kind of the magic that you have and show us a little bit of your workflows, because we know what this does for a lot of our customers, but the fact that, our internal teams use these systems as well just kind of shows to prove that, we walk the walk, and, we want to spread that workflow knowledge to the rest of you. So, thank you again for doing this with me. So I do want to give you a little bit of an agenda of what we're going to go through. I want to talk a little bit about the value of Frame, and I'm going to dig in a little bit on that, talk a little bit about new features as well, because since a lot of you folks may not be as familiar with Frame, it might be a good opportunity to learn a little bit about it. We're definitely going to talk about what is Camera to Cloud and kind of the basic idea of how it works, but we're actually going to really show you a demo of how quickly Sarah and I can work on a project, get her assets immediately, and do this all within the time that we're doing this session. Of course, this year we released some new Camera to Cloud integrations, so we'll talk a little bit about that, and then of course we'll end it with a nice strong demo to show you how it all works. So the big question is, what is Frame.io? And based on the polls, some of you have an idea, but the main idea here is you have all your assets in one place. And I'm sure if we did another poll about where you get your creative assets for all of your key players, I'm sure people get them from Slack or a text message or an email or some other service like Dropbox or Box or WeTransfer. And, while those aren't bad systems to send things through, they may not be as efficient because the line of communication can get lost really, really quickly. And the fact that all of your creative assets can be in one place, not just your video and your stills, but your project files, your PDFs, your pre-production files, whatever you need to put into Frame, all of that can be into one place. And assets that allow you to leave comments, those could be organized and categorized in one single place. And again, in our demo, I'll show you a little bit of how that works. But the idea is that everything inside of Frame is accessible to all of your creative collaborators across all of your different departments within your organization, no matter how small or large they might be. So the big thing about Frame.io is that, yes, we work off a web application. Everything is web-based, and you upload things to the cloud. But we also have applications that allow you to be a little bit more mobile. So we work with the iOS devices, such as an iPhone and an iPad. It's built specifically for those devices. So it's a nice, seamless system that works on your mobile your mobile devices. I'm saying it again, but it's built for those. So you're able to be on the go wherever you're at. You can get push notifications. You can leave your comments and annotations and do all the work that you need to do. On the other side of it, for our enterprise users, we have the ability to include your clients into the review process. So that's by watching dailies assets that come through on Camera to Cloud on the Apple TV app, or they could be at home watching assets through the Apple TV app. So we have another way to kind of send that outlet for viewing wherever you're at on the go, or if you're in an office somewhere and you need to have a kind of a monitor set up for full viewing. Now, the other really key integral part about Frame.io is that we have an integration directly within Premiere Pro and After Effects, and that's kind of going to be the bulk of our demo today. So Premiere Pro and After Effects, it's virtually the same panel and allows you to do a lot of different things. And the most important part about this panel is that it's going to keep your editor or yourselves, if there are editors in the group, in context of the application. It's so easy to get distracted by so many different things like websites and your phone and this and that. But if you're able to actually keep the panel within Premiere Pro and After Effects, you're able to actually not have to leave that application, but do a lot of the functions that you need to do inside of Frame.io directly within Premiere Pro and After Effects. Now, we do have integrations with other NLEs as well. We've got DaVinci Resolve as well as Final Cut Pro 10, and you're able to bring your comments in as markers directly in Avid. So if you're not directly a Premiere Pro and After Effects user, that's okay. We still offer support because we are an open ecosystem, so we still preserve those integrations with other NLEs. Now, this is a separate panel within Premiere Pro and After Effects, so you can move this window wherever you'd like. Again, that's something that Sarah's going to go over momentarily. But the big thing here is that you could set your markers as comments and vice versa. You could bring your comments in as markers. So you really have a nice seamless way to have your creative feedback and your editorial team coinciding in one space and making it really seamless to make that happen. And then obviously you're able to export your sequences out, again, thus removing that line of needing to go to a separate app or go to a web app in order to interact with Frame.io. So the next big question is, what is C2C? What is Camera to Cloud? Well, this is a game changer if you're able to apply it correctly with your different teams. So Camera to Cloud is an ecosystem of integrations that enable workflow. And it's a great way for you to have your production team and your post-production team working in the same kind of environment. You're going to see how seamless that's going to work here momentarily. But I want to kind of explain the high level of how it works. So this is something called the universal workflow backbone. And this is a process we're all too familiar with. You've got to capture your camera, whether it's video or stills. You've got your on-set audio that needs to be transferred or moved over to another hard drive. A lot of times if you're on location and your team's on location and they're shooting, they got to ship those drives out to you. If you want to get that media, there's no other way to do that. Then you got to process it, build those dailies, and then get it to your editorial team to actually start putting it together. But there's a lot of variables in there. If you have to ship things out, you're putting your trust into USPS or FedEx and UPS. And not that they're bad ways to send stuff out, but in the end, that's media that's really important that needs to get to where it needs to go faster and more efficiently if you're trying to do a quick turnaround. But with Camera to Cloud, we take those audio, video, and still elements and basically condense that down into one pathway directly to your editorial team. So instead of us needing to transfer it and ship it out, you could send those files directly to Frame.io, depending on which Camera to Cloud system that you're using. We've got a lot of different integrations that you could use. So what does it look like? Well, here's what it looks like. C2C is the center. You got your camera, a stills camera in this scenario on the left, and you got Frame.io to the right. You take that picture, those RAW and JPEG files will then go directly through the C2C system, and those same JPEG and RAW files, because we don't touch any of those files that you upload. We keep those completely untouched. Those same JPEG and RAW files will end up in Frame.io. Now, this is with a camera that has an internal integration. I'll explain what those are here shortly. But for video, it's the same thing. You can send your raw media. So if you're using the Red VRaptor, VRaptor XL, maybe even the Komodo, you could send your Apple, I'm sorry, not your Apple ProRes. You could send your raw through R3D files directly from the camera into Frame.io. And you can send ProRes actually through the Red cameras as well. So you have either option. You could send either ProRes proxy files, or you could send your raw R3D files. But sometimes cameras don't have an internal integration such as Red and Fujifilm. So you may have to add a little additional box in there. So that's where this little device comes in. This could either be a Teradek Cube 655. It could be a Prism Mobile. It could be, what's the other one? The Teradek Serve 4K. It also could be an Atomos device. And the Atomos device kind of opens up this door to so many cameras that are HDMI and or SDI compatible. And what that will do is it'll send MP4 proxies directly to Frame.io so that your editorial team can start editing with those proxies right away. And then when they get the OCF media, the original camera file media, they'll be able to link that back up in their sequence, and then boom, you're off to the races. You're able to export your sequence, and you didn't slow down that process. And in turn, when you're connecting the production team with the post-production team, you're really able to harness the power of creative collaboration. Sarah, I'm thinking of the example of NAB, not this year, but the year before, when we were cutting that gasoline commercial we do fake ads for Frame. So this was at like a gas station, and there was a lot of transitions between televisions and going into the real set. And Sarah, you mentioned that was, if we didn't have Camera to Cloud, that would have been fairly difficult to do because there's certain creative matches that you had to do between those different screens. I don't know if you want to add a little more to that.
Yeah, I mean, we were doing these transitional moments that really needed to match cut correctly. So on set, the director was asking me to find the appropriate shot that I felt was the smoothest, that worked with the edit that we had so far, to tag him in that asset on Frame.io. He could look at it then right by where he was shooting to make sure that as they were shooting it, it was on the exact same pace, the exact same framing, so that the shot would line up perfectly. And that couldn't have been done without Frame.io.
Yeah, so it just really connects it together. And if you're able to get those assets and start editing immediately, your production team's going to know exactly what they have or don't have by the time they wrap set that day. And to me, honestly, I'd rather work a little bit extra and make sure I've got everything and I'm done and never have to go there again, versus finding out a month later when I finally get my dailies and go, shoot, we missed that insert, we missed that shot. Then we got to go find a way to reshoot that little moment. So it really saves you on a lot as we go along. But I know I spent a lot of time on this, so let me move forward into our new Camera to Cloud integrations. Now, I kind of hinted at internal and external integrations. Now, we've got a sea of Camera to Cloud enabled devices that you can use. And like I said, some of them are internal, and that's specifically for the Fujifilm X-H2 and X-H2S cameras, as well as the Red V-Raptor, V-Raptor XL, and the Komodo and Komodo X are available with internal integrations. But if you don't have those, that's where Atomos and Teradek kind of come in. And Atomos came out with their new Ninja Ultra. And this will allow you to upload 4K H.264 proxy files that are 10-bit 422 files. So you get nice large proxies that you're able to work with directly inside of Frame. Now, speaking of more internal integrations, the Fujifilm GFX 100 the second is one of, I think, Fujifilm's largest camera sensor. It's a 102 megapixel camera. It takes beautiful images, but this actually has an internal integration without needing without needing a hand grip. So I have an X-H2 and I require a hand grip right now in order to transmit those files directly to Frame.io. But with this new GFX 100 the second, I don't need that hand grip. It's all internal. All of my networking's available on the inside. And, boom, we'll be off to the races with that. And then lastly, the Axoon CMO and CMO Pro is a really, really great way to get a low-cost buy-in into Camera to Cloud. So if you're kind of an independent filmmaker, or if you're an editor trying to dabble maybe into shooting a little bit, you may want to consider looking at an Axoon, because this will allow you to turn your iPhone or an iPad into a device that will allow you to monitor your video, but also upload your proxies directly to Frame. So it'll input HDMI and SDI. SDI on the CMO Pro, but HDMI from the CMO regular one. And the one that's pictured there is the CMO. So you can put your iPhone right on there. It's a little interface, 2 little cables, and it connects your device together. And your phone itself is the one that actually uploads that to Frame.io. That probably leads you to the next question. I'm sure there's some in the chat, but we're talking a little bit about set networking. And that's a big question a lot of folks have. It's like, well, if we don't have internet, how are we going to get the files out? And that's a great question. Well, we've got some solutions that'll help you along in that process. We work with Scalera Digital and First Mile Technologies. So if you need bonded, multiple band, cellular antennas, or you need satellites, those two companies will be a great way to do this. But a lot of ways for you to actually upload your files is tethering through your phone. I'm able to upload my JPEG files directly from my camera using my tethered on my phone, or if there's in-house Wi-Fi. You can even get a MiFi box and connect your camera to that as well. The Golden State Warriors shooter Tom Fournette actually uses that method courtside when they're actually doing a live game. So there's an ability to allow for set networking and or having a cellular unit that you can use so you can have internet where you're at on your set or on your shoot, wherever you're doing. But that's kind of a general overview of the camera to cloud and how you can actually get your files up to frame. So I don't want to take up too much more time because I'd like to actually get into the demo and show you how amazing this system is. And this is where Sarah is going to show off her magic on how that works inside of Premiere. So take it away, Sarah.
Thank you, Shawn. All right. So that's camera to cloud, and now we get to the edit process. And let's live in a magical land where I already did all this work. I created an edit, and if you're familiar with Premiere, this should feel like you're right at home. I live in it all day, so this is basically home for me. So we have this beautiful edit already done, all these visuals. It's an ad for this Dryp campaign right here. Great. And I want to send it to Shawn, my approver, and see what he thinks of it. Is it ready? How are we doing? So I don't want to include this slate in this. So I am going to start with an in and out point right here. But Sarah, where am I putting it to? Great question. So Frame.io is built right into Premiere. You're going to hit Window, Review with Frame.io. And if you're familiar with Frame, this mirrors the website exactly. The web browser, this is what it looks like. If you're not familiar with it, Shawn is going to be on it after I demo my piece, and then we'll go back to me. It'll be a whole passing the ball back and forth situation. But this mirrors the web browser exactly, so it's very easy to navigate, very easy to get around. The learning curve is not that big. All right, so I want to export this timeline for Shawn to review. I'm going to go into this exports folder right here. And I'm going to click this upload button because it'll designate from this timeline where we're uploading it to. So upload, active sequence, which is important. So this title is correct. And here in presets, I could actually upload any preset file I want, like you could in Media Encoder. But I'm going to stick with Web 1080. That works for me. I specifically want in and out points. As I mentioned, I don't want to include the slate. I don't want Shawn to have to waste time on it. Frame.io, you could press play on your own. You could see what the asset is. I'm not going to include the slate. The slate was for me. So I'm going to leave in and out, but you could do the whole sequence. You have choices. And you could actually set it to a custom folder. But, I don't want to waste space. I have a lot of stuff on my computer. I want it to run smooth and fast. So I'm actually not going to keep a rendered file because I don't need to. I could always download it from Frame if need be. I am going to keep this checked, which will come into play later, which is export markers as comments. And auto versioning will also come into play later. So I like to keep those checked so there's never any issue. So I'm going to click upload right now. And as that's happening, Media Encoder is going to launch in the background and upload this. Really what's taking a second is Media Encoder opening up. This actually takes 2 seconds once it's opened. And Shawn, do you want to switch screens so we could see it appear on your end?
Sure. Yeah. If you want to stop sharing yours, I'll jump over to mine. Okay. So what we're looking at is the web app experience, and it's still rendering on her end. So once we actually see that it's going to be uploaded, I'm going to get a little notification right here at the top, letting me know that there's going to be a new file added. So I'm just going to give it a moment. But while that's going through, I'm going to show you really quickly on the left-hand side here. I've got basically a team, and all these projects that are in here are all different projects that have different set of assets in those. There you go. There's that notification we were looking for. As I click on each one of those projects, it will present me any media that's located directly within those projects. And over here on the right-hand side is where I can actually add in my collaborators or my team members so they can interact with these assets individually. Now, collaborator roles will allow me to isolate them to a single project, and team members, kind of my core team members, they'll allow me to actually see all of the projects in there if they sign on to their own account. And then obviously, if I have a bunch of other accounts that I'm associated with here on the left, I can click on those and work in somebody else's workspace if they have a Frame.io account as well, and they want me to interact with their assets and they've invited me to it. So it's a really nice way to keep all this stuff organized and housed in this one central place. Now we've got these folders kind of made out just for this demo, but you can see here we've got that exports folder, and it just takes a moment for it to transcode, but it's available for me to play. I can actually scrub my mouse right over the top so I get an idea of what that media is. And if I double click on it, it's ready for me to actually play. So I'm going to turn it down just a little bit, and we'll give it a little play. I've watched this already before, but I'll give it a quick play so you guys can take a look. All right, so that was the Dryp. Oops, not doing it twice. That was the Dryp campaign, and this actually was a campaign that was built by our brand team and our prod squad team, and it's actually a fake product. It's not a real product. What's really impressive is that these assets were made specifically for demo use at any trade shows such as NEB and whatnot. So there was a lot of work and effort put into creating these. So our prod squad team and our brand team really worked together to make this happen, and they did everything inside of Frame.io to make this work. But I do want to leave a note in here because I do notice we have a logo here at the end, and I'd really like to see if we can actually incorporate a background. So I'm going to go and just leave a note. Can we please replace the background with some new images? And I'm actually going to send those to Sarah. And if I want, I can actually add an at mention in there if I want to. So I can just choose that. I can hit send. Sarah's going to get a notification that's in there. But I want to leave another note in here that's got some annotations in it too. So I'm going to say maybe we can update logo at some point. And what I'll do is I'm leaving an annotation. There's a little annotation button. I'm sorry for folks that maybe can't see in there. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. Yeah, you like that? That's nice. All right, so I could choose this little annotation button, and I'm going to go ahead and just choose a color. I want to go ahead and zoom back out, and I can actually just draw on the screen. I could select one of these arrows. I could be super passive aggressive if I want to. I can even create a range-based comment as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just select all of this section here. So I have kind of this in and out point. If I want to hold down shift, I can actually move frame by frame. Same thing on the other side, holding down shift. And once that logo pops out, boom, I think that's when the comment will work. So I'm going to go ahead and hit send. And what's really cool is that my comment appears over here on the right-hand side. As I click on those, it takes my playhead to where that comment was made. If I have a ton of comments, which that can happen in these kind of review sessions, I can sort them. I can also export these as a PDF. I can copy them to another asset if I'd like. I can also export those for any other NLEs that I might be using. I could bring those in as markers as well. But yeah, so I've added some notes in there. I've tagged Sarah. So I'm going to go ahead and send it back to her screen, and we'll see what it looks like on her end.
All right, so we see right here that the two comments have appeared. And because this is an active sequence, I told you it would come into play. I'm going to click on it. And this is very important. I need to make sure that this is linked in order for my playhead to match up with these comments. And I see Shawn's comments right here, right? Those are the two comments. And I could click right there and the playhead will move exactly to where that node is. And I could click right here and it'll move exactly to where that node is. For some reason, it's a little off for a second, but I see these comments are here and the same thing applies. Now, I'm an editor. I'm busy working. while this window is so convenient because I don't have to have a million windows open at once, I sometimes use this to view things down, and I don't really want this to consistently be frame. Yes, I could pull it to another window, but what I'm trying to get at is that these actually can be imported into my timeline so I can take these notes with me until they're addressed. So I'm going to download these comments. Great. And as you see, it appeared right here. Through markers, if I hover over, it'll say the exact note that I need to address. And they're both in here until I do address them. Now, Shawn, I'm just curious, this image, do you have any suggestions as my commenter? Do you have any suggestions for that background?
Well, the brand team actually gave us a new bottle, so I should probably incorporate the bottle that I have here and send that over to you. So actually, yeah, let's jump over to my screen and I'll show you really quickly how that works. So I'm back on my web app here, and we could see I've got my cloud devices folder. Now, anytime I create a new camera to cloud connection, it's going to create this cloud devices folder. And as I go into that folder, it divides up all of my assets into shoot days. So as I grow out my project and I shoot multiple days, these folders will be automatically created. I don't have to go in here and create these. It's all based on the time code of the camera and the date time that's set on the unit itself. And you can see on my camera, I've got the XH2 right here, and I'm going to snap a couple photos, and I want you guys to challenge me and give me some notes. So we just went through that process of demoing. It is on my desk, so don't make fun of my dust. Ooh, that's kind of a cool one. Let's do that one. And I'm just kind of blindly just kind of snapping these, so feel free to leave some notes. Okay. Now we should be seeing some assets going in there, and there they are. So perfect. So anybody that's in the group, by all means, please go in there, leave some notes and comments. And I'll show you some cool new features as well. So let's say I've got two assets here, and let's say I'm a reviewer and I want to actually see these assets side by side. I can actually grab that little three dots there and choose compare assets. And I can go in and actually see these each way. So if I want to, I can go in here, I can leave my comments. Let's say like this angle, boom. I can leave some notes here, dude. If I want to, let's see, leave a shape on there. Do I have this one? There we go. Bloop. I like the shape of this. I can hit send. I can also go old logo here. If I really want to point something out, let's say this is an older logo on something, I can actually go in and go, you know what? I'm just going to draw that right there. Is there a new logo there? I can hit send. And what's really nice is that I can toggle on and off all annotations. So if I'm working with any still assets, I can actually see these on top of each other instead of me having to click on one or the other to be able to see what the comment is or isn't doing. So really, really clever feature. I don't see any comments coming in. I'm going to take a look. Oop, there's one over there. Love it. Yeah, thanks. Nice audio interface. I know, that's a Disneyland rocket ship too. The TWA. There we go. Wendy got one in there. There we go. So boom, that is a little on camera to cloud, but let's go ahead and, I don't know. I think this one, no, that one's out of focus. That one's terrible. Maybe this one. We'll do this one. And yeah, so I'll mark this as approved. So that way Sarah knows that this is the one. So I'm going to say at Sarah, use this one. Boom. We're going to hit send. And there we go. So now we head back to Sarah's interface and we can see what that looks like.
Thank you, Shawn. All right. So as promised, his web browser looks exactly like my Premiere panel. The learning curve is not that steep. And here I got a bunch of notifications. That's one way for me to see what's going on. They actually all appear on my watch. So if I am doing something and I want to know, are these comments and notes something I need to go back to my edit bay for? Or are they just, looks good, Sarah? I can decide based on my watch, which is kind of crazy. So, I see here, I'm in that same folder that you guys wrote in, that this is the approved shot. All the comments are appearing. So I have different ways that I could download this. I could click this button here and I could import this file, or I can click right here, download, and also import the file. Now, let's say I'm watching these all down and I see different things appearing from camera to cloud into frame, but they're not for the current project I'm working on. There is an option to just download the files so that I know I have them saved, because I need to hop into the edit later, and I just want that to be quick and smooth. So I don't have to also import them, but I am going to import it. So import this file. I'm saving it on my desktop, not as organized as I usually would be. And here we go. That was a second. It was right in here. And but I want to make sure that everything's exactly correct. So I'm going to make sure that all the notes line up, that nothing is new that Shawn commented. And so far, it's still only 2 comments. This little purple icon says that it's linked to my sequence. So I am still ready to go. So that note was that we wanted it in the end card, right? So I am going to bring this up a layer, and I'm going to bring in this image right here. And it seems like the graphics team did not send me an alpha. So for those who are familiar with Premiere, you might know this trick, but I am going to go to the asset type itself. And under opacity, you have these blend mode options. And I'm going to just click screen in a pinch. And it seems like this is kind of working. So I want to, but this image is sorry, clicked the wrong thing. But this image is a little big for me. You shot it pretty large. So let me bring it down a bit. And I think that if the opacity was also brought down a little bit, it will be a nice background there. And I think this is what Shawn was going for. Something a little bit like that. Maybe make it a tiny bit bigger so I can move the water bottle over. Doesn't interfere. Oh, I think this is what he's gonna want. I really do. So now I'm ready to upload a new version for Shawn's approval. I have these markers and I don't want them being uploaded as well. So I'm gonna clear selected marker. I'm gonna clear this marker as well. But I want Shawn to know that I addressed his notes. So I'm going to leave my own marker as a comment. The name does not really matter. The comments is where you should leave the comments, go figure. So, note addressed here. All right, so Shawn will know that I totally did that. I'm going to leave a range base because he left a range base. You know, if he could do it, I could do it. I'm going to make sure it's for the entire length of it. All right, great. My in and out points are still set. Let's just watch this down. All right, I think that he'll be pretty satisfied. I'm going to go back to my Frame.io panel. And because this is an active sequence, I'm hoping that these versions stack, which they will. What is version stack? Well, as an editor, you have many, many rounds of notes and edits and cuts. And sometimes things get lost in the shuffle, but version stacking means it won't. It means that all of my comments will be attached to the version that it should be on, and they will all be stacked. So I could always go backwards, and we'll show you how that works. But that's amazing because I'm never going to get a note lost in email. I'm never going to get a note lost in Slack. That means if I have a reviewer who's looking over my stuff, they're not going to by accident comment on the wrong version, because when I version stack them, the link that I send out automatically has the most recent cut on top. So let's say I sent a link on a Friday and they needed to see that I finished the cut, but I realized, you know what, this one shot, I'm a frame off and I want to fix it. So all I need to do is just version stack it again. That link will be the same. I could even delete the previous version underneath it and the stack will still exist. That way they don't see that I uploaded 2 versions with 1 frame difference. Not that everyone always checks my version stacks, but for my own self. Anyways, I'm going to upload. So it's the same steps as before, active sequence. I actually forgot to change the name, so I could change the name right here. So I want 4. All my settings are still the same, but as promised, export markers as comments. That's something I definitely want. And auto version means version stacking. After that whole explanation, of course I want that. So upload. And right now you see it on the right, but it'll be faster this time because encoder is already out. And it is going to automatically version stack for me. Do-do, do-do. And if you guys have any questions, Shawn is going to take over after this, but we'd love to ask them. So while this is rendering out, I just want you to see it version stack on my end, but feel free to leave any questions.
Yeah, no, we are getting super close on time, but
should I switch over to you?
No, I want to see this to completion.
You want to see a version stack and see the comment go through? All right.
So while we're watching that, can I ask the quick question from Monica?
Sure.
Okay, so the question is, do we have the same integration with Resolve? I guess, can you give a little bit more specifics about Resolve?
Yeah, so Resolve, so the integration with Resolve is a little different. So it works off of, it doesn't have a separate panel, I guess is the easiest way to put it. It doesn't have a panel like Premiere Pro and After Effects. Final Cut Pro is the only other one that has a separate panel. So what happens in Resolve is that Frame.io will show up as a hub inside of your media library. And then from there, you're able to bring in your assets into the media library and then into a sequence and then work through your assets from there. And then you're able to export it. So it's kind of integrated with Resolve, but it's not necessarily as interactive as this panel is itself. But you could virtually do the same things. Bring in your assets, sync your comments back and forth, and then export them using Frame.io so you don't have to leave the application. So it's very, very similar.
And for people who are watching, I just kind of showed all those little features as Shawn was speaking, that the comment was there, it uploaded, you saw the versioning right there, and it just is a seamless process.
Thank you for that. I'm so sorry we're running out of time, but I do want to mention that this is available. If you have Creative Cloud right now, Frame.io is available to you for free in this current moment. So if you have Creative Cloud, you've got a lightweight version of Frame already available to you that comes with 2 users, 5 projects, 100 gigs of storage. All those commenting and annotation features are all included. You can also share these out for review. So folks that don't necessarily need to be on your account, you could send these out for review so you can get external stakeholders to leave comments on assets. But the biggest thing that differentiates this from the free plan to this included plan is that it doesn't come with Camera to Cloud, but this plan does. So if you want to try out Camera to Cloud, go for it. And all you got to do is just sign in with your Adobe ID. Now, the last thing I want to leave you with is some training resources. If you do want to learn more about Camera to Cloud, we do have a training series that's up and available. You can scan that QR code on the bottom right-hand corner to learn more about it. It's a great set of series. It'll show you everything from setting up your production to actually be Camera to Cloud, all the way through to how to swap out your proxies with your hero media at the end. And it's a really, really great way to kind of see how everything works with Camera to Cloud. And then lastly, shameless plug, if you want to learn more about Frame.io more in depth, Frame.io Live is a program that I host with a few other presenters. If you want to learn more, we've got a lot of great sessions coming up. We have a whole new roster coming out for next year. And we actually are going to do a lot of really in-depth discussions and community events and things like that. So definitely check it out. Use that QR code to learn more. And if anybody needs more of those links, I can put those in the chat. But again, thank you so much. Sarah, thank you so much as well for your wonderful demonstration.
Thank you, Shawn. Always a pleasure. And thank you, Wendy and Woody.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I have a question, just a quick one. Okay, are there Avid integrations, Media Composer and Pro Tools?
So right now it's just for Media Composer. So right now you're only able to bring in your comments as markers onto the timeline. That's currently the only option that's available right now.
You guys covered a whole lot, and I think people got their questions answered. I do have to vouch, I have to say, your trainings that you guys do are phenomenal, and your demos. So we really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for your time. Thank you, everybody at home. And make sure you catch up on our past meetings. Go to our YouTube channel, make sure you hit subscribe and click on the notification bell. And that's going to let you know every time a new video drops. Our most recent one is up from September's meeting, and this is from Avid Audio Solutions for Post with Christopher Malamachi, and he did a fantastic demo, showed a lot of really cool features that are in Pro Tools right now. I highly recommend that you check that out, and there's over 90 other presentations while you're over there that you can sample. We have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it, and LinkedIn. And I want to give a huge thank you to our partners. Platinum level, we have AJA Video Systems. Gold level, we have Adobe Blackmagic Design, OWC, Zeiss, Frame.io. And silver level, we have iZotope by Native Instruments, SGO, Edit Share, and Avid. So we also have lots and lots of companies that support us. We have supporting companies, media companies, community companies. So we really appreciate all of their support. And thank you so much for spending a little part of your evening with us.